Hey John, hey David. How you
Hey John,
guys
how are
doing?
you? Let me see if I can get my audio or anything working today.
Hello, hello.
Fayette, can you pause
Oh,
the
that's good.
pause the
Oh,
recording?
I will start that now. Just gonna make you a co-host quickly.
Thanks. Okay. So, well, thanks everyone for joining to the Hyperledger Identus maintainer call of today. Um, as usual, we'll remember the antitrust policy notice that we always present. And also remember to adhere to the Hyperledger Community Code of Conduct. For today, I think the agenda is a little bit short. Also,
Esteban, oh, you're
yes.
shading your screen.
Oh, that's good detail. Yeah, I am a little bit sick, so I think I got the flu or COVID or dengue or all of the above. Uh, so I'm sharing.
Yeah, we see it now.
Okay, so yeah, well, again, welcome everyone for joining. Remember, as usual, the antitrust policy notice, and also remember to adhere to the Hyperledger Code of Conduct. For today, agenda, well, as usual, we have introductions, we have a few updates, a few comments from GitHub issues, and as usual, we have our questions and answer section. So yeah, it looks like today we have new people. So
Hello, hello. Hi, David.
hi,
Nice to meet
Yuri.
you.
um, so now I'm having my usual fight with the participants part. So is anyone new in the call that wants to present themselves? I think, yeah,
Elijah.
Elijah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, hello, my name is Elijah Goodrich. I'll introduce myself. My background is in mathematics and physics, my master's biomedical engineering and BSMU, and then finishing up my master's in statistics at Purdue. My interest primarily aligns with computational physics and quantitative finance. I've worked in sales for quite a bit and government contracting for about 4 to 5 years on top of it. Primarily just decision science and behavioral analysis for that, and analyzing space too, or just like objects in space and geointelligence.
Oh,
But
that's
that's primarily my background. My interest is in blockchain as well. I think that it's the way of the future and for security for government to prevent against economic and financial espionage. And I'd love to hear more about all of you guys because I'm really curious about this.
yeah. Thank you for joining, and we are glad to have you here. Who else?
Oh, we've got David Stokes on the call.
David, would you
David,
like to introduce yourself?
There we go. Sorry, I'm not a Zoom user. I've been following Cardano for many years, seeing all the different side projects that are coming out of it, and I took an interest to this one specifically because I thought it has a lot of potential. Um, I'm a developer by training and background. Currently, I'm a CTO for a mid-sized company. We're not too big. We do about $500 million a year in sales. So if I don't spend a lot of time, talking with you guys, it's because people are popping in and out of my office constantly. In fact, we have auditors here that, that I have to take care of a bank in here in a few minutes. But yeah, I'm just kind of one of these lurkers that look out at the development of the area and seeing what juicy tidbits that I can jump glom onto and try to run with, because I'm still trying to figure out what best fits for some of these technologies are going to be the killer app, so to speak. Thinking the envisioning of how I would roll these things out into multiple businesses. I immediately thought of one of the breaches. I just got in a letter in the mail the other day that said that I think it was Ticketmaster that sent me a letter saying that there was a data breach of all the lists, and all I could think of was, man, wouldn't it be great if we start leveraging the zero knowledge proof concepts and stuff on how we can eliminate the need for a lot of this triplicate, quadruplicate copying of data, of personal data to all these companies out there that still allow them to do transactions and collect their fees without actually storing credit card data and all this other information. So I guess that's why I'm just here checking things out.
Yeah, I think you are in the right place. That is part of the reason for developing this technology. Who else is new in the call?
I think Jack. We've got Jack Sivertson. That's new on the call as well.
Hi. Can you guys hear me? I don't use Zoom very often, so
We can hear
Yeah.
you.
Loud and clear.
I'm Jack Severson. I'm a new software developer, and I just have found like a really good opportunity working with this project, and so I'm just kind of here to see updates, kind of see where it's going, and just popping in to look. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for joining. Hopefully you find these meetings of value.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can learn quite a few things from the community. This is the last one, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So regarding updates, we don't have too much updates. One thing is we now have the Identus.io domain that John Bauer donated to the project, redirecting to the Hyperledger Identus main GitHub repository. So the idea is that this is something that you can share with anyone very quickly. And in this repository on the README file, on the landing page, you have links to all the relevant links. Are you seeing the GitHub page? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, basically, if you go to identus.io, you will come here, and very quickly you will be able to find the links to the documentation. You can also have here the links to the other repositories of the components that relate to the project. You have here some details of how to help with the project. It could be by reporting bugs, by pointing out documentation mistakes. Maybe you want to request a new feature or something that you would like to see improved. So these links will lead you to the right place. Also, we have here the communication contacts. Here is the link to the Discord server of Hyperledger Identus. Here you will find the calendar to our community calls. So pretty much you can come here, and if you want to subscribe to the calendar, there is a button here on the bottom right corner to subscribe to the calendar, and as well the recordings to all these meetings. You can find them here in case you miss a call and you wanted to see what happened. You can come here. You will need to create a Linux Foundation account. Is very straightforward as logging in with any other website, and there is going to be a page where where you can find the recordings to these calls. Yeah, besides that, you can see that this repository is pretty much just a landing site to get information about the project. So yeah, if anyone asks you for information about Identus, well, you can just share this very straightforward URL, identus.io. So regarding GitHub issues, we have an ongoing conversation about having a list of projects that have adopted Identus or use Identus or are tools that enhance Identus in one way or another. The idea is to make them visible here in this same site, maybe adding another section here. So there is a discussion there. If you want to participate and make comments, feel free to jump in the GitHub issue, and you can comment. The other thing is a topic that was raised by John Bauer related to the contributing.md file and well, how it's aligned. Currently, well, the contributing .md files is the place where you will find the guidelines on how to contribute with code to the project. Right now, the contributing.md files that we have, maybe they're a little bit outdated. They need some work. So John raised this topic about if we should make all these contribution files standardized across the Hyperledger Identus projects. So well, the thing here is that I think are at least two options, well, or maybe more, but I'm presenting just two as suggestions to get the conversation going. One is, as John Bauer suggests, match the contributing.md files across all the repos. The other option will be to let the code owners of each repository to define the scope of guidelines of this file. Thinking like maybe there is not the same thing to contribute to the Swift repository compared to contributing to maybe the Cloud Agent. And well, yeah, basically it's two options that I present, making everything the same or maybe having a specific contributing.md files for each repository, or if someone wants to present on their option. I don't know, John, if you want to talk about this.
Yeah, I think Esteban, I think you summarized my concerns. So, yeah, I was going to do a quick like just PR to change the README and to update it. The Edge clients, I think, are behind on that stuff. And I realized that the contributing was different than the main Identus repo. And so that was just my question, is if that was done intentionally or if those were just outdated. And they're fairly different, so I'm just curious if there's a reason. You know, I wasn't sure if there was tooling, like the commit message formats are different. And I'm wondering, like, is there existing tooling that could break if we adopted the same message format or something like that? Or, like you said, it might just be the preference of the owners. So, just curious.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to put here the link to the issue in case anyone wants to get into the conversation asynchronously. Maybe I would like to hear from someone from the IOG team if they have any viewpoint on this matter, the IOG engineers.
I filed this on the Swift repo, but this is the same question for
Mhm.
Edge clients.
It's okay. Yeah, that could be a potential problem if the code owners don't define a clear scope. Um, but also that's important for them to be involved in this decision. In the end, they are the ones who are the let's say the guardians of the repository in one way or another. They are the ones who merge the PRs. So yeah, hopefully we can get their input in the comments of the ticket later on. I will ask them to jump in and join the conversation in there.
Yeah, sorry about that, Esteban. We'll jump in on that conversation. We haven't had the discussion yet. I mean, I have ideas here, but we'll jump in on the conversation. I don't have direction just yet, but we can do that.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. So that pretty much are the updates and topics from the GitHub issues. The next section is the Q&A that we usually have this Q&A. One thing that we have been talking internally, I'm sorry, is to try to make this Q&A question feel more like a like an AMA. So the idea is that if anyone from the community wants to engage into more technicals or in-depth discussions, well, this space in this call is always open. So yeah, this Q&A or AMA, however you want to call it, is open for any kind of questions. It can be technical, it can be related to maybe the roadmap, it could be related to issues that are being open, or really is very, very open section for anyone to ask questions to the maintainers team. So I don't know, Matt, maybe if you want to comment a little bit of a vision that you have for the AMA.
Sure. I mean, we're happy to we're always going to come to these maintainer meetings, and we'd love to get some technical questions, and I'd love to make sure that the right people are here to answer them. So I would love to have questions before the meeting, and if that doesn't happen, that's okay too. But yeah, we as far as the platform and the SDKs, we'll always have someone at this call or me that can answer those questions. And if we can't answer them, especially with roadmap items, we can come back and give you those answers. But yeah, we're here for the technical questions. We don't get that many yet at these meetings, and we'd love to get some more, and love to get your feedback as well.
Okay. Thanks.
So there's a non-technical question in the chat at the moment from John, which is, what are you guys most excited about with new tools and features?
So at least from my side, well, I'm actually excited for the sandbox, not necessarily a direct feature of Identus, but is something that that Tala Prism made available. And for me, because really I don't like to spend time setting up environments, is very, very cool because I can play with the cloud agents with relatively ease. So yeah, there is something that well, I like quite a lot. And I believe that there are going to be eventually additional improvements to the sandbox.
Yeah, one of those improvements I think is, if I'm not mistaken, connecting it to testnet,
Mm.
which will be quite cool as well. That's coming up. So yeah, I think that's it. Is there anything else on the IOG team that they want to make mention? Any features or tools that they're excited about? Matt, Anushka, John.
Yeah, one of the things that we didn't mention yet, and we haven't spoken about to the team, the sandbox is really exciting in trying to get more people involved in signing up to use the sandbox because it's the best place to use the latest code or our latest pushes. And we also have something that we haven't spoken about yet is a manage product which allows users to spin up the infrastructure on their own. We're looking at creating a version of this, an MVP beta, which we want to try and release to the community after this PI, this product initiative, which would be sometime in October or September. So that is something, that's future forward that we're thinking about, allowing our developers to spin up infrastructure and see it working and play with it. We have a lot of features that I could go through that's in our roadmap, but I think the roadmap is pretty public, right, Esteban?
Yep, it's visible in the Identus repository is here. So if you go to identus.io and go here in the projects, you can find here the roadmap. Maybe it require an update after the PI7 planning, but it's here.
One of the other exciting things that we're putting together is a simple end-to-end demo by the end of this PI, which uses all of the tools and SDKs with some code examples. And that's something we're putting together as well that we're going to be able to present to the community by the end of this PI, we believe. So that's another pretty exciting thing, and I think that will really push our users to give them these examples on how they can actually use it in real life.
Okay, thanks. I think David, you have David Harding, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to is actually the implementation of SDJWTs as a verifiable credential type. So it won't be just a non-cred. So we'll be more compliant with all the standards, not just the non-cred standard, which we believe very, very strongly in, but being able to support others for other use cases is going to be a strong advantage of the Prism platform, or the Identus platform.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's also exciting. Anyone else?
That's something I'm excited about. It's not a feature or a tool set or anything, but I mean, if you guys are in Vegas next week on the 16th, you can catch David, Charles, John, and Daniela Barbosa from Hyperledger doing a panel discussion next week, Friday, and the topic is, if I can get to it quickly, identity in the age of blockchain. I'll post a link here to the agenda, so if you guys want to go through that, please do. And if you guys are in Las Vegas, please stop by and say hi to David and the gang.
Awesome. Anyone else has any other topic, question, criticism?
I just had a quick question.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I'm new to using the Hyperledger Identus project, and I kind of initially started looking at all this kind of right when you guys were switching from Atala Prism to the Hyperledger Identus, and so I know that switch, or maybe I don't know, but I feel like I've seen them during that switch a lot of maybe the documentation hasn't caught up 100%, or maybe I'm not looking in the right place, but like for example, the first thing like I've been sent to look at is like that getting started tutorial on like how to get like all the like the different agents set up and then connected to a wallet SDK. But a lot of that seems like outdated because like they use like Prism agent or Edge agent, but like in the wallet app itself, it's like called something completely different than what's in the tutorial. And I'm just wondering like if that's going to be updated or if there's a better place to find that tutorial.
Yeah, no, for sure it's going to be updated. Yeah, really, we apologize for the troubles. The thing is that with the migration from the repositories that hosted the project initially, they were into the IOG GitHub organization. And when we made the transfer, well, inevitably, a lot of things broke. So yeah, we are aware that other things broken. As Matt mentions, we are already updating that. So yeah, most likely we will be publishing in the Discord channel once we get everything sorted out for the community to know that we are back in business.
Do you guys have any like estimated timelines on that or?
I'm not sure, Matt, if you have a timeline.
I'm sending some messages right now to see. I mean, I would like it to be very soon. I don't want to make a promise. As far as Yuri's here. We have a couple people on vacation. You know what? I'll take that and get back to you about the short term, when we plan on pushing stuff in the short term.
Yeah, we will find resources to look at this issue this week. So I guess there will be an update at the next call.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, David.
I will state that this is a topic that's come up as early as yesterday. So we do understand it. We are working on it. We are putting together the time frame, which is why Matt doesn't have it, because we're putting this as a priority to reallocate some resources to make that completed. So I will tell you, yes, you're correct. It is out of date. We know it, and we are addressing it very, very quickly. Hope to have an update by our next meeting next week.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Any comment that you want to share?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just saying I really appreciate everybody with Identus and Atala. We kind of were some of the people that were first bringing up the topic of the documentation. I just really appreciate everybody from your teams addressing this so quickly. So that's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Quick question. Is OpenID Connect for BC one of our deliverables at all? Or is that not on our roadmap?
Yes, it is. Where we've broken it up into different workflows for to be compliant with W3C. So we can tell you exactly what we're gonna. But yes, it is on the list to do this PI.
Yep, confirmed.
Yes, David.
I'll come across the top on that one and say OIDC is an absolute priority for us. OIDC is the standard. It has basically overtaken SAML for enterprise use of identity attribution and authentication. So it's a method that is used by multiple IAMs and SIAMs to be able to authenticate and also to onboard an identity. So OIDC is an absolute priority for us. This PI, it may be an ongoing thing because as OIDC continues to evolve and get better and stronger, we will want to stay at the forefront of it. But for those who are interested in OIDC, be interested in hearing what your use cases are, how you intend to use it, why you intend to use it, and what you're intending to integrate with it would be very helpful to us.
Thanks, David. Yes, John? Go ahead. John, you have your hand raised.
Yes. So can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
All right. I'm sorry, Esteban,
Yeah.
dragging it out. I just wanted to bring something to you guys' attention. So I'm taking the Emergo blockchain consultant class and learning a lot of high level stuff from old stuff from Cardano, and a lot of things that are coming up is that there's a lot of kind of like deprecated projects that are still kind of up and out there without any information explaining that they've been all but kind of abandoned and deprecated. And I wonder if it's not a good thing to, because we move so fast in this ecosystem and we build so much tooling, and the people that are kind of following along at the same cursor, they move on to the next thing, but people coming into the ecosystem could be a little confused. Like I tried using the Plutus sandbox a while ago and wasn't working, and then in class it came out that it was kind of deprecated and no longer supported, and there was other things that were being utilized. So perhaps updating those repositories and websites just with the current information to send people in the right direction who are looking through multiple websites and resources. As Cardano, IOG, everything's so spread out due to business structures that it might make it a little easier for newbies coming in to follow along if we give them a little bit of a roadmap on some of the dead ends.
Okay, yeah, maybe. Well, I'm not sure how much we can assist on that matter because I believe those references or those projects maybe are not related directly to this group. So maybe they are part of other of the Cardano ecosystem
Yes.
communities.
It was mostly for just to keep in consideration as we move away from different projects and even the switching over from Atala to Hyperledger, making those transitions clear in which direction. That's all.
Okay, yeah, not taken. Yes, David.
John, that's a really good point. To expound upon what Esteban has said, Atala is a business unit inside of IOG. IOG is separate from Cardano Foundation. And as you are well aware, in a lot of these open source projects, as they move quickly, things get abandoned, things get discarded, or they just don't get maintained. And there is a total lack of communication across the board in the Web3 community, not just with Cardano and not just with IO, on those types of projects and when they basically are put to pasture. So we empathize. Our commitment is to make sure that we don't do that, and also encourage our brethren here to be good citizens and make sure everyone is aware. But yes, it is a known problem in the community as a whole. But we're going to do our best to make sure that as we clean up our act and get our documentation together and get everything up to date, that it stays up to date, and that if anything is deprecated, we document it appropriately.
Thanks, David. Anyone else? Anyone else with the comments? Yes, Sean?
Yeah, just back to the use case for OpenID Connect 4 that David was asking about. At least for us, we're really heavily focused on verified credentials for education, and W3C is kind of, that's their main focus, at least those standards. And so we're really focusing on that. But then as I dove into the documentation on the Atala side, seeing the opportunity to integrate with Keycloak is also another thing that we're really interested in, and bringing this in an access management way to especially schools, because they're easy targets. And so they the documentation at least start as I've started to follow. And again, I'm not very technical, so this is, I'm just going off what I'm reading and kind of doing my own research, but it looks like OpenID Connect 4 is, they're integrating it into the next version of Keycloak, if I'm not misunderstood. So one, education is our first inroad. We're looking at other things, but education, VCs and education, the W3C is huge in that. You know, you got the T3 network, SHRM, Walmart Foundation, everybody's really pushing the skills-based hiring, and verified credentials are a big piece of that. And it seems like that's where everybody's kind of starting to adopt. So that was what we're looking at anyways.
Yeah, thanks.
I can comment that the OIDC flows for verifiable credential issuance and the verifiable presentation are built on top of Keycloak OpenID specification. So we leverage Keycloak as a main identity and access management system, and we add corresponding plugins to facilitate flows for credential issuance and verification. So it means that it will not be possible to use OIDC for VCI and VP without the Keycloak.
That's great. Thank you.
Go ahead, David.
I believe Sean had his hand up first. Sean, did you want to ask your question first or make your comment first?
I did make mine. That was it, using the use case for education specifically.
Okay.
Thank you.
My apologies.
Yeah.
No worries. Look, I first of all, to your point, you're absolutely right when it comes to the type of use case you're talking about. One of the things that I would like to talk to the community about, and I will be a little more formal about this in the future, is having the community actually work very closely with us in developing some new capabilities and new features. Right now, I've chartered Matt, our CTO, with creating designing interfaces for interchangeable VDRs, trust registries, et cetera, and actually even a KYC interface, so that we can change out the VDR, we can change out the trust registry and how that would work, and take more of a plug-in style approach. Reason for this really comes down to a lot of the things you just described, Sean, which is, yes, OIDC, especially version 4 and integration with Keycloak, is a great solution. I think Keycloak is fantastic. Used it when I was building the Clear platform for Clear at the airports. It's a very powerful and widely used solution. However, when you start talking about IAMS, Identity Access Management for Enterprise, and SIAMs, Customer Identity Access Management, yes, they are centralized, but VDRs tend to be. Being able to work with VDRs like that and still have the Identus platform on top adds a lot of value. And I think that, working with the community and building some of those interfaces where it is specific to your use case would be very helpful, and we would love to support you in doing that. So if you see opportunities, or if you are interested in opportunities, or even going after Catalyst funding for opportunities to do things like a replaceable or a VDR plugin or a trust registry plugin, and work with us as we define those generic interfaces so that you can, swap those in and out and have them be interoperable, that would be something we'd be very excited to work with anyone in the community on.
That would be awesome. Because I think the best inroad, at least in the States right now, for verified credentials is that the education, that's where everybody's talking about it. The missed piece in my mind is they're talking about verified credentials, but they're not talking about it in the sense of SSI, which verified credentials was born out of the SSI movement, which kind of frustrates me a little bit. And so I think there's a really big opportunity for us to kind of gain market share in that space, because in my research, would be one of the only companies doing that. And two, so if you're onboarding your students, why wouldn't you use this same system to onboard your employees? And that's where that access management, like you're talking about, David, I think that could be a huge use case, especially starting in education where that seems to be the momentum. So that's kind of our focus and where we're headed.
I completely agree. If you look at where a lot of the applications that focus on identity, where their back end really is, it's in SIAMs like Salesforce and ForgeRock, Akamai, Auth0, the enterprise model with Okta, Ping, AD, Azure AD.
Right.
Being able to work natively, if you will, and sit on top of those platforms, utilizing them as a VDR, for example. And then also building trust registry around that, or if the underlying SIAM or IAM doesn't already support KYC, and if that customer is not already doing KYC through that underlying repository, being able to do it at the Atala level. One of the things, or the Identus level, one of the things that I point to SSI and verifiable credentials for is, if you look at the NIST standards for identity assurance, authentication assurance, pretty much anyone in the identity space is all over those, although usually up to level 1, often to level 2, rarely to level 3. But what they completely overlook is federation assurance, the FAL levels, FAL levels 1 and 2. And SSI really is, I don't like the term magic bullet, but it kind of is the magic bullet in that it is a open standard and protocol to be able to do exactly what you're describing. So again, working with the community to build some of these components, and like you're doing, going after very specific use cases, I think would really move the entire Identus platform forward very quickly, in a use case by use case basis.
Yeah, definitely agreed. And we have in Idaho, that's where my main connections are. I have some national connections in education too, but I really feel like Idaho is ripe for this. We've got some different programs going on for high school students transitioning to college and using state funding grants towards colleges in Idaho. And they're having such a hard time connecting with kids. And my previous role, where I was helping kids just 6 months ago sign up for these scholarships, they had to use multiple logins for these state things versus one state login. And the people I'm talking to in the state so far are really excited about it. And I feel like this could be something that we could get eventually adopted on, maybe even on a statewide level, which could be really cool. And that's what I'm excited about. That's kind of what we're pushing for.
Sean, I'd love to talk. I know you're talking to Peter, and that's fantastic. Peter's an absolutely wonderful resource. I've been in identity myself for over 20 years, and run CTO, typically public company, large identity stuff. So I would love to perhaps talk to you a little further. Matt Klepp actually worked for me for over 10 years, managing very large identity projects for things like airport security, border control, driver's license programs. So, when it comes to actual implementations at the government level, like you're talking about, we have a pretty wide breadth of experience there, and perhaps we could share some of those lessons learned, and if it is going to drive the Identus platform forward, by doing so, I think it would behoove us all to sit down and have a conversation about your specific use case.
That would be awesome. I would love that. Thank you, Matt. I see your message there to set that up. And, I'd love to chat with you, and I've wanted to, David, but, it's like me who's brand new. Hey, CEO, hey, want to chat? So no, I love that. And so that's why I've been working with Pete and starting to work with Matt too. So yes, I would be honored. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you. Excited.
Okay, well, that's awesome. That's part of the relevance of these meetings. Matt, do you want to comment something?
Yeah, Sean, feel free to bother me. One of the things I don't do well is that I like to meet with too many people, which takes away from some of my priorities. So use that. to your advantage, please feel free to reach out to me, send me an email anytime. I will drop everything to meet with you, because these are the opportunities which I'm mostly interested in, so that I can push our product into the right places. It also gives me a lot of feedback for what we should really prioritize next, and I think those kind of discussions really help me as well. So there you go.
That would be great. And
Open door.
Jack, who's on this call too, is one of my developers. So Jack Severson is also he's my main guy helping work through this, and so that's why we've been pushing the documentation, just because like we want to get this built. We're kind of on a timeline. So yes, thank you very much, Matt. I will do that definitely.
Go ahead, David.
I can always ignore you. Don't worry. But I won't.
Okay. Yeah. So changing topics. You brought up Esteban Rare Evo next week. I know John Bowers planning on attending. In fact, I roped him into a panel discussion. So John, I really appreciate you joining and being part of that. I'm doing a keynote on identity in the blockchain era, and then doing a panel with Daniela Barbosa, the executive director of the Hyperledger Foundation, Mike Ward, our CPO, Charles Hoskinson, our CEO. And actually, for me, the highlight is John, because he's actually using it in a full blown product. So it's not just hypothetical and isn't this great. It's John's actually writing a book on it, as well as integrating it in a product. So for those who are going to be there, it is in Vegas. It's at Caesar's Palace. I'm going to be there for the full term of the event. Please stop by, introduce yourself. Let's have a conversation. And I'm going to have time to be able to pull away and talk to you about your individual projects or your needs. And if I can steer you in the right directions, I absolutely will. But I would, as I said before, I want this community to start being very collaborative on not just the request side, but on the development side. As a community, this is where we start to build velocity. We have a platform now. It is in the Hyperledger Foundation. It is part of their offerings. And the community is really what's going to drive it from this point on. We are just a maintainer. We work on it. We build on it. We're going to continue to do that. But our interactions with you, our involvement with you, our growth plan with you, this is where it starts hitting critical mass. So please reach out, meet me at Rare Evo, and let's open up some conversations on how we can build our community from a development perspective as well.
Awesome. Anyone else has more comments or questions? Okay, if there are no more topics, Roberto, go ahead.
There is a question.
Yeah, I asked that. Yeah, I just put that on the chat recently. I was just thinking about Identus 2 from Europe, where very soon they're going to be issuing, identity wallets to their citizens. It's going to be KYC at a national level. And I'm not sure, completely what's the whole thing about or the whole regulation about, but I will be very interested in knowing if Identus is not breaking any of that requirements, because saying we have this is a software stack or whatever, and just by doing that, not breaking anything, that's a great step forward into that market, I guess. So I was just wondering if you guys are aware of that. I'm sure they're aware of that, of course, David. But what's the status or what's the approach to that regulation or the reaction to that from Identus, I guess? That's my question.
So the eIDAS standard, the eIDAS 2 standard in the EU is still under development. They're talking about an SSI-like solution as it stands today. The standards are not fully baked. I follow it pretty extensively. Matt and I have been involved in ID programs at the national level in a couple of different countries. And when you talk about state or nation state level KYC, we've done that several times. It's usually with law enforcement and with the actual government identity registries themselves. For example, in the United States, Social Security, combined with local driver's license programs, where we have DMVs at the state level instead of at the federal level. So we've done those integrations for KYC in the past. It's not your typical KYC model. It is definitely government oriented. And if you really get right down to it, your identity begins at government level. Doctor takes a piece of paper off off a shelf, writes your name, writes your parents' name, probably puts your handprint or your footprint on it, and gives it to a government agency to be registered. That's the beginning of your identity when it comes to the government. So when you talk about these types of programs, it really starts there. What they're going to implement, not sure. We see, again, Matt and I have been involved in a number of these programs, all the way to smart card programs, where that information is actually on a chip on the card, and they've done everything from an X509 cert, yes, an X509, don't know why, but they do it, to things that are much more sophisticated. The eIDAS 2 spec doesn't really follow a lot of what we would consider SSI standards yet. They pay lip service to them. We have yet to see where that's going to go. A lot of these programs at the nation state level are custom. To give you an example, in this country, the executive branch of government after 9/11 here implemented a program called the HSPD-12, or Homeland Security Presidential Directive 12, personal identification and verification card, or PIV card. I was involved in that program, and entirely custom, most secure biometric smart card in existence. Used throughout the military, all the executive branch of our government, all the way through healthcare in the government. So it's been my experience that when you get into these types of programs, you really don't know how they're going to land. One of the things that I think is going to be very important for us is if we do have the ability to do things like an interchangeable BDR, KYC, and also trust registry, that gives us a very big jump start in being able to work in those types of programs. Now, the second is the actual presentation layer. The issuance, yes, but that's a one-time thing. And you can create workflows around that on top of a platform like Identus. Authentication becomes a little trickier, but what it is you're actually issuing is going to be the really sticky point as to whether or not a platform like Identus or any SSI platform is going to meet the bill. My expectation is natively it won't.
I see.
But we can always hope.
Yeah, because at this point, I'm just starting to get into that, see if that's interesting. It sounds interesting right from the beginning, but yeah, you're right. Like, we don't know how it's going to land, are going to be the requirements. And yeah, and every country also has kind of the freedom of implementing their own version of that. So it's going to be tricky.
That's where things get interesting. If you start taking a look not at a regional spec, but an international standards board, then you start being able to handle things like we already do with passports and the RFID chip on a passport being able to be interoperable. That doesn't happen very often, and it only happens if it's absolutely necessary. EDAS, we're gonna have to see where that goes. I'm hopeful that they go with open standards like SSI that allow different countries and different companies to provide services and implementations that are federated and interoperable. And that would go a long way, by the way, for driver's license, but also for things like enterprise, healthcare, law enforcement, being able to federate that identity and use it at your job, same way we might use a driver's license or a birth certificate to show citizenship, a passport, things of those nature. Right now, what I'm seeing is a real hodgepodge of implementations. Here in the United States, we have an electronic driver's license standard through a board called AMVA, but very few, only a few states have implemented it. It's undergoing alterations. A couple states have already ditched it, and it isn't as interoperable as I would like it to be. So I really hope the EU, which has really pioneered a lot of standards when it comes to privacy and identity, I hope they look at open standards and adopt them instead of trying to go their own way.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comment or question?
And David, in your experience, back to kind of the open standards, I think if that's where I think we have a potential to win is if we follow those open standards. It gives people a choice. So almost hopefully we'll force them to use those open standards, and then at least people have a chance to choose a more SSI friendly version. Do you think that's possible in your experience with nation states? But I see that's the only way we fight centralization, is giving people options and educating them on that. With the driver's licenses here in the United States, 4 states, I think, of now you can put your driver's license in Apple Wallet. Well, now you're just giving Apple all of your identity except for your social security number, and so if we educate people in the options and staying within those, at least in the United States, the WC 3C standards, hopefully it gives them an option to kind of combat against that.
It's a good point, Sean. I think the problem is that, anytime something like this is going to take hold, it's going to be based on value, not on feature or capability. Okay. Does it having been a public company officer for many years, I got beat into me by Wall Street that people don't invest in technology. They invest in what we call aspirin. They invest in painkillers. Okay. They don't. It's the vitamin versus aspirin argument. People don't invest in vitamins; those are nice to haves. They invest in aspirin; they're need to have. So if you look at where we can go with SSI, it isn't going to be because of privacy. And I know I'm in a minority in making that statement. Companies aren't interested in your privacy. We're interested in our privacy. Companies are not. Why would they implement SSI, and why would a government implement SSI? When they are certainly not interested in your privacy? They have all of your information. So it has to be in value. What pain are we solving? And if you look at it from that aspirin analogy, I will always point to, for starters, federation. Being able to use a standard for presentation, onboarding, and authentication. So as we go out and do our messaging, one of the things I think Web3 really falls down in, and us who are involved in the industry, and including in identity, is we focus on the wrong things. We focus on, all the things that the companies don't, or governments aren't interested in. Instead, we need to focus on the things they are and show how it brings real value, solves problems, et cetera. In this country, if you've interacted with any government agency, that's one ID. And then you want to interact with another government agency, then there's another. And so an enterprising company called ID.me sprung up, and it's basically state-sponsored identity theft. Because if you read their terms of service, they can sell your data. Okay. And by the way, the IRS, the government doesn't care. So going to them and saying, hey, we're better because we protect your citizens, identity, data, they yawn. It really has to be what makes this easier to use, easier to onboard, easier to authenticate. If we go and if we continue to really promote why this is better from an ease of use, ease of implementation, long-term strategy, That is where we will start to win, not it's selective disclosure. It's zero knowledge proofs. Those are very important pieces. And I do not wish to minimize the value that they have from a sales perspective and from getting people on board who are the actual decision makers. We need more. I will tell you the thing that excites me about OIDC is integration with existing IAMs. That picks up enterprise day one. All of a sudden you got single sign-on through SSI. That's exciting because I could take my identity with me, onboard at a new employer, selectively disclose my information, have it automatically populate all my insurance forms, my benefits forms, everything else. And all of a sudden, the employer did a hell of a lot less work. You did a hell of a lot less work. It was a better experience. That is how we win.
Totally agreed. I don't know if you saw Okta put out a survey, a 20,000 person survey, and all about data privacy and security. And I'm using that data to support what we're trying to do. And one of the things is convenience over security. And I think it was like 65 to 70% of the respondents said they'd choose security over convenience, which is one of the hurdles maybe with initially adopting SSI, is it's not as convenient when you talk about keys and things like security. But the data is starting to support what you're saying, and that's the use case or how we kind of address pain points.
Agreed. No, identity is all about the level of friction people are going to want to put up with. You know, as I like to say, no one ever gets up in the morning and says, hey, I can't wait to play with my digital identity. It's something that we just have to deal with. Okay. We don't think about whether or not we have to authenticate ourselves and go to a two-factor authentication and enter a code in a period of time anymore. It's just standard, right? If we can make that easier and provide real value, then you start getting adoption. Again, you know, for a company like Okta, for example, I've worked with Okta. I know the CEO. I've worked with them since they got their initial seed funding. ForgeRock, Matt and I were their first development partners. We've worked with these guys. We've seen them come up and create domination. Okta, however, hasn't done a very good job with their security, as I'm sure everyone here can attest. After data breach after data breach, Ping has done a better job. ForgeRock has done a better job, yet Okta is still widely used. Why? Because it costs a lot to forklift it out. The other element that is absolutely critical that I will tell you, every CTO, on the identity side and identity access management side, is going to tell you is don't make me forklift out what I already have. When I was a CTO of a public company, one of my biggest fears was going to a board and saying, I need funding to forklift out something big and replace it. You lose tribal knowledge, you lose your investment costs, you lose your training costs, you increase all those things at least triple over in your cost of ownership. The cost of ownership jumps dramatically, and then you have to go through that phase down all over again. It's like an amortization process of bringing the cost of ownership down of that particular piece of hardware or software or both. So SSI, being able to sit on top of these things, again, aspirin, we're solving a problem, better authentication, better federation, better onboarding, selective disclosure that can be easily integrated because it's a standard protocol. But utilizing the existing capabilities and infrastructure that companies and governments already have, that's the win. That's the aspirin I'm talking about. And you're not bringing more pain. So yes, security first, foremost, not replacing the internal infrastructure of the enterprise. Big one. If you can do those things, that's an easier sales cycle than, hey, let me get the forklift and take everything out and put something new in. God, it's been a great conversation, guys. This is the type of community conversations that are fun. Lots of participation. Appreciate you.
Love it. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. This community is very, very important to us. We're going to continue to grow it. We're going to continue to support it, and we hope to create a much more cohesive integration, so that we're not the only ones developing against the platform. I look at a lot of the stuff Bjorn's doing. Bjorn, I'm always amazed to see you in the community demonstrations. A lot of what you're doing, those are the types of things we literally want to create tight, cohesive relationships with, so that we can grow this community to be on its own, so that Identus isn't just an IOG thing. It's an us thing. It's this community. We own it at the community level. And then we can individually go and build on top of it and go make living.
Oh, it's lovely words, David. Thank you for that. Cool. I think we've come to the end of the hour. As usual, I'll post the presentation a little bit later tomorrow along with the recording. So if anyone's missed out, feel free to go back and check it out along with the meeting minutes as well. Thanks everyone for joining. Hope to see you next week at our community outreach call. And John, I'll definitely see you there as well. Keep well, everybody.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.